One of the fears in this whole discussion, and it's maybe sometimes it's subconscious or it's not fully spoken, is this idea that none of the founders of the United States could ever pass the test of modernity. In other words, presentism, this idea that Thomas Jefferson, yeah, he wrote some good stuff, but he was a slave owner, and therefore we have to discount his history and his contributions. Can you frame this issue for us? Because I think it's one of the things that is actually that it's an irritant to this issue. This worry and backlash on the part of a lot of patriotic white Americans, certainly, that what's going on is a systematic attempt to tell America that all of its founders were bad people.
Well, I would first distinguish between people who wanted to build the United States of America and people who wanted to destroy the United States of America. So to lump the founders in with the Confederates, it doesn't, I mean, that's a different conversation, I think. Presentism is an issue. I mean, you can't judge people totally by the standards of their time, but you also think of their time. There were people who were better in some ways. I mean, it was not a common thing, obviously, for people to be racially sensitive in the 18th century. That was not a part of their world. I think it's possible to recognize people's contributions at the same time as recognizing, their flaws. You're not going to have American history without Jefferson. I mean, it's not the Soviet Union where they erase people when they're out of a picture. You see a picture of Stalin, and if the person is in favor, they're still there, and then they Photoshop them out. We can't do that here. You have to tell the story of what happened. I mean, the Declaration of Independence is real. The University of Virginia is real. The Library of Congress. I mean, just go on and on and on. But you can't tell that story without telling the other part. I think that's the thing to do. And I think what people feel is that by talking about slavery, by talking about Monticello, talking about Sally Hemings, talking about those things, you're suggesting that he cannot be a person who is a part of American history, and I think that's wrong. I think the Confederates are a bit different. Going back to your previous question about how you feel, I always thought, I grew up in Texas, that it was particularly insulting to have people honoring Confederates when they to honor a flag that flew against the United States of America. I mean, Jefferson and the founders, it's a different time, it's a different struggle, but this was really, I think, even more so, as you said, sending a message. That was a message for today. So the presentism of those monuments and statues is really about trying to maintain white supremacy, maintaining the idea and being recalcitrant in the face of the loss of the war. So I would distinguish, and this is what happens, one thing gets started and we kind of go down the slippery slope and you pull everybody in. I do think that there's a difference between the way we deal with the founders and the way we deal with the Confederates, the sort of anti-founders, because that's a completely different vibe and different historical situation.